So I think that's I think a perfect place to start. And we are, as Kate just said, Jodi, we are so happy to have you. So it's really great to see some familiar faces and some new faces. I'm Kyle Olson. I'm the DPT for Albania and Montenegro. I'm joined by a number of our Albania and Montenegro staff, as well as RPCVs. And because of as we've been supporting volunteers, we wanted to open it up to other countries. And so it's really great to see RPCVs from Jamaica, Cambodia, Mongolia, Peru, Mozambique, and great to have you here with us. And as Jodi was just saying, doing, supporting the transition from Peace Corps into whatever's next. Just so everyone knows, I have just started a recording of this conversation so that we'll be able to share it with our PCVs afterwards. So we are recording. We'll be putting this up on Albania and Montenegro's workspace, workspace learning space after this, and I'll be sure to share the link with other DPTs as well, so that it can be shared widely. But with that, I'll want to get to the main attraction and get to a conversation with career expert Jodi Hammer. And so with that, Jodi, we are so happy to have you with us. As I have shared with you in a message, I remember when I was COSing from Mongolia back in 2011, one of the pieces of advice my DMO gave me was, when you get to Washington, D.C., talk to Jodi Hammer. That was one of the pieces of advice I got. By the time I'd gotten to D.C., I'd already secured a position in the Peace Corps, so that I was able to, I don't know if we actually ended up talking at that time.
You didn't need me.
But it just goes to show the impact that you've had in supporting volunteers returning from service, certainly even before that. So with that, Jodi, would love to hear from you. I see that you've put up a very nice background. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. And want to say first, before we even get started, I am not choosing to keep my camera hidden. There's some issue with my, we thought we got it resolved. Now it's back, and that's great. But if it tunes out and it goes to the default picture, you will know why. It's not that I'm trying to just not be seen, okay? Great. I am really excited to be here, and the topic of the day, as was shared with me, I included that title on here, a conversation with career expert Jodi Hammer. I feel a little arrogant saying career expert Jodi Hammer. I have worked a lot in careers, and I do have quite a bit of experience in that and knowledge from that. But I don't know that I consider myself I certainly don't consider myself the end-all be-all expert of all things careers, because we all have things to learn. It's a journey, and I'm still learning and increasing my portfolio as well. So, but regardless, I'm excited to be here to talk with you a little more about myself. I've been asked to first spend a little bit of time talking about my own career. So in addition to the very brief introduction that I generally provide, I'm going to walk you a little bit through my own career, just as an example for you, because I know many of you right now are probably in a stage where you're thinking, what do I want to do, and what should I do? I don't know what to do, and it can be overwhelming, right? And you feel oftentimes that you need to know what your career is going to be, and I have a slide later that actually accentuates this, but really trying to have people think of it as a journey, your career journey, and through that you learn more about yourself and what you like and don't like, want and don't want in terms of any job that you're considering. And that gives you more insight to be able to then attain jobs, work towards and do great, a great job in your resumes, cover letters, all of those, to be able to get that job that's going to be more congruent with your values and your strengths, to allow you to have more of that state of, as I like to call it, career bliss or career, reward, feeling a sense of reward. So I'm going to walk you a little bit through that here, and forgive me, I just put down a couple things so you can kind of follow here. But my career path really started with a liberal arts degree from the University of Northern Iowa. I was born and raised in the Midwest, and I went to the University of Northern Iowa and got a liberal arts degree. And I am an advocate of a liberal arts degree. I know many people are like, oh, liberal arts degree, you're not going to be able to get any job. In my case, I feel like I think that liberal arts degrees oftentimes teach you how to think, not what to think. And so when I talked to my maybe business professionals or some of my other colleagues afterwards, they talked a lot about the formulas and the ways to do it. There was that right and wrong way to do it in, address an issue. And what I found happened was you get outside of that path and something unexpected, happens, and whoa, it's harder to sometimes adapt. So I think that liberal arts degree really helped me. And then, of course, my Peace Corps service, which I'll get to in a moment, completely helped me, right? It helps you to turn on a dime and be able to, just be very resourceful and adaptable. You all have definitely dedicated the ultimate extent of adaptability and, resourcefulness and resilience. I want to say that as well up front, because I've been really impressed in my interactions with the, evacuees, those who are, planning to try to go back, those who are moving on and doing something else. You have really shown such resilience, and it's just been a pleasure to work with you and chat with you on the, the evacuee group. Most of you are probably on the COVID-19 evacuee Facebook group. On there's a lot of there's a lot of support that other people who've been back longer are offering. They want to help you, and I just have been really impressed. So I'm thrilled to be here working with you. I'm sorry that it happened. I know that it's nothing that you wanted. It's nothing that the country, the country director, all of the staff, nobody wanted this. Peace Corps didn't want this, Peace Corps headquarters. But, given the situation, it was necessary. They made the call, and, you're here and you're, looking at what's next. So after getting my liberal arts degree, I was working in the Career Center. So see my seeds of, Career Center. I was doing resume reviews and such even then. And one of my mentors there remained a huge mentor that is still a mentor throughout my entire life. One of a corporation came in. It was Principal Financial Group, which is a large, they do investment, well, they do 401k planning, they used to do health insurance, they do all kinds of things. So it's Principal Financial Group, and in the Midwest there's a lot of insurance companies and such. They came in to interview, and in interacting with them, and I decided to actually take one of the slots, and in talking with them, I really hit it off with the individual who was interviewing me. And they said, we need people who like, connecting with people. What part of what this really involves is going into the organizations and explaining, why is a 401k plan important? Why is it important to plan for your future? What do so it was that more education, right? Adult education. And that was really was a passion of mine. It was in San Francisco, which was a huge bonus. I grew up in the Midwest, got to San Francisco, still my favorite city in the entire world. If any of you are from there, I'm very, very jealous. Lived there. I ended up taking the job and moving there. And I will say, first, I want to say it was a great company. It is a great company. I had wonderful support. I loved my small office that was out there. I loved my commute, my benefits. I had great benefits, literally company car with that. I just paid like $3 per gallon or something crazy low like that. I worked in Marin County, so had reverse commute going out and in across the Golden Gate Bridge every day. It was wonderful, right? I mean, I really liked, and I liked the people that I worked with. And so that was, I found a sense of, reward in it. I enjoyed the perks, and I enjoyed my team. And so it was enough to keep me feeling, okay about, the job and such. But pretty soon, after about, 2 years, whatever, I really was getting that, you've got to listen to your gut, right? And I was just not feeling fulfilled. And it made me feel really guilty, because I loved the organization, I loved the people, but I just wasn't fulfilled enrolling and going out and talking with brokers and selling. It was marketing, and that's fine, but I really wanted more of that direct connection and more of that fulfillment. And Peace Corps was something that I always had kind of had in the back of my mind. I dreamed of doing at some point. And I made the decision. I was like, you know what, this is the time to go and just, explore. And so in my application process, I actually went to Thailand with a friend of mine, and we met up with, of all things, a Peace Corps volunteer. And I got to take, I mean, that was such a great trip. I took her, and it was one of these aha moments for me that probably more than any other moment in my life was where it just felt surreal. I had borrowed her little bike, and I'm pedaling, through the countryside of, Thailand. And I borrowed her, I think it was Peace Corps Times or Worldview, whichever one it was back in those days. This was like, yeah, this was like in the early 90s. So, and I opened it up, and I was, looking through the magazine, and I was so inspired. And what did I see but this big ad for Masters International Program? And many of you know, some of you might be. Is there anyone in the audience that was an MI? Probably not now, actually, because it's been gone for a little while. But there were a couple people that just got back within the last year that were the last participants in that. The MI program was a program with Peace Corps where you did 1 year of intensive graduate study. Then you went to your Peace Corps service, and that served, if you will, as, I mean, an internship, for lack of better words. And when you came back, you then either did a thesis or your presentation or whatever it was for your university. It depended on the university. So I did, I saw that. I was like, oh, what a great program. But of course they won't have anything in what I'm interested in. When I was looking down, I saw all the things, all the topics, and there it was, international adult education. And I thought, what? This is amazing. So it literally, I like I said, I can't even explain my body. It was almost like this out of body type of experience, and me thinking, this is it. This is what I meant to do, and I went back, came back to the States, and, applied for Peace Corps and talked to the people about, the MI program, and, did that whole path. And that took me to DC. So after about 3.5, almost 4 years out in San Francisco, I relocated to the East Coast, to DC, and without knowing very much at all about, the program or the university, but knew I wanted the adult education one and wanted to combine it with Peace Corps. So I was actually on Howard's campus at that time, and that was later canceled. It was actually a joint program through University of the District of Columbia and the Howard campus. So I did my degree there, went to Peace Corps, and had a fabulous time. So that brings me to my Peace Corps. That was wonderful, and it was such an amazing experience. I was a rural health extensionist, and that extensionist title, that they use sometimes in many countries, sometimes that doesn't really translate well. People are like, what do you mean extensionist? So sometimes I might put on my, rural health extensionist or / educator, something that might, be easier for people to digest. And I worked in Urucuqui, Ecuador, so in the north. I don't know if we have any Ecuador evacuees on. If so, drop your name and such in the career chat. That would be great. And so I worked there for the 2 years, and then ended up extending for a 3rd year as their national volunteer coordinator. And that was the position that took me to the capital, so Quito. But I was traveling out to basically help with, supporting volunteers who were struggling, who maybe needed some additional help. I also was involved in site selections for the next one and the training for the incoming group, so PST. And that was a very interesting experience as well. So that got me to, over 3 years in service. So moving on to my next one with the transition, the post-transition. So as I'm sure many of you who are getting close to the end of your service before you were, evacuated, you were already thinking, what's next? I don't know. You're dreading it or wondering what to do. And, that whole thing, right? You get to that state and it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, lo and behold, a former company, the corporation that I was talking about, remember in the beginning, my principal financial group, former organization, they reached out to me and said, hey, we know you're finishing. I had been in touch, just to, stay in touch personally. And they said, we know you're finishing, and if you're finishing your service now, we have an opportunity that we'd love to consider you for. We'd love you to come back to headquarters. You'd be based in Des Moines, Iowa, but you would be traveling to Chile, Mexico, Spain, several different Spanish-speaking countries. So you would basically be the Spanish speaking representative who would go to these, on international trips and such, right? Well, that sounded interesting. I mean, it was an opportunity in my lap. So it wasn't this whole, what am I going to do? I have to apply for things. And I loved my organization. And I was like, well, that would put me in Des Moines. I've missed out on 3 years of my nieces and nephews' lives, so this would put me back there. This could be good. Like maybe I should, and I mean, international marketing, I wouldn't be in Des Moines all the time, nothing against the Midwest, but, be there some and then be able to get out to these, different Spanish speaking countries sounded like a lot of fun to me and such. So I ended up accepting that and moving to Des Moines. And I was in my whole full, like, reverse culture shock thing. In the beginning, it really didn't happen because I had what I was working for. It was like, great, I've got a job. I'm moving to Des Moines. Here's what I need to do. I need to get this. So literally it was like getting a place to live, stocking that up. I didn't have much left. So it was buying this stereo, buying that, whatever I needed. So I focused all my energy on the, like, getting ready for this new position, and I started it. And once again, the people were amazing. They were great, different people, in headquarters, but amazing. And that was all great. But pretty soon, when I had everything done in terms of my readjustment, I was really feeling in my gut, and like I don't, this is just not the right, I don't think this is the right fit. Because what I didn't realize was, I'm a Spanish speaker and I learned Spanish, and my Spanish was, pretty good at the end of my service and such, but I worked in the campo. I was not working with, the wealthiest of wealthy people in the countries that are wanting to, preserve their wealth and protect it from, whatever. So annuities, like that language, no, I had never learned the word for annuity, right? Barely know what it is in English, right? So learning this whole new vocabulary for something that was to me was not rewarding or enriching. I wasn't excited about that. It was very hard. And I had committed when I took the job in the beginning. I had talked to them about, I said, I would be willing to, thank you for the offer. I'm really, I'm thrilled, about the possibility of working with, such a great company again, But I do want to be really forthright. And I felt like I could, and I had the ability to tell them that, I am willing to commit a year to, to this, but I am planning on doing more nonprofit, and they were fine with that. So they just wanted somebody to help get it up and running and, like, get the show on the road, right? So, but even before a year, I mean, that I really, that was my readjustment, I would say. It kicked in after I actually had gotten the job, and I missed my, host family. I missed the simplicity of my life in Ecuador. I missed the, just being passionate about what I was doing. I missed, all of those things, right? I mean, your fellow volunteers, all of that, like, kind of came crashing down, I would say, on me. And it was a very difficult time. I would say it was among the most difficult times in my life, really. And I really leaned on, my family and such, and just, confiding in them that I wasn't, I just don't feel like I can do this. And I ended up leaving that job before the year, and just being honest with myself, and just I felt like I needed to step away. I couldn't come through on that. And now, I didn't go into that thinking that I would leave early, but it was not the right fit. So I left that, and really came home and spent some time at home, which I know a lot of you who have, parents and such still, and, that, are going home and staying there. I understand your current situation and the complexities, the benefits, certainly, that you have that option, but the complexities as well. And my parents were very supportive, extremely supportive, and allowed me to really kind of regroup. I started doing some part-time work in a hospital, in a clinic for, and I don't have that on my career path listing, but I started doing, as a Spanish translator, working with, immigrant populations who were largely working in the meat plants and such. And they were coming in with just their hands, just extremely arthritic and different, issues. And so I, found much more reward in that. It was almost like I felt like I was back in Peace Corps. So that experience, that little kind of temporary work while I was looking for my next role, was extremely helpful and in fulfilling what I needed. And then that brings me to, and I want to kind of close this, because I know we had talked about, maybe 15, 20 minutes on my extended career. That brought me to AmeriCorps NCCC and to Kate Becker. So, who you are, all those of you in Albania are lucky enough to have as your country director. Kate is amazing. She was my boss during my tenure at AmeriCorps NCCC, and was amazing, really. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. Kate. That is the truth. A very supportive boss, and she really worked hard for, National Civilian Community Corps. Many of you, maybe you haven't heard of it, but it's, we always used to kind of call it the domestic Peace Corps, if you will, this intensive, residential program where, teams of 8 to 10 people and a team leader spend the year literally together, working together, living together, traveling together, and doing short to longer term projects that give them an amazing skill set. It's actually a really good skills building event activity for somebody who wants to do Peace Corps as well. So it's a fabulous program, and I was involved with really overseeing like their variation of, if you will, the pre-service training and training throughout the as needed for the teams and such. And I had the pleasure of working not only with Kate, but with an entire team. Again, a small team, small organization, right, at a campus, DC Village, near and dear to my heart, Kate, other than the smell from the water treatment plant nearby. So we worked together as a team and just had a lot of fun in the process. Really did enjoy that experience, and it was very good for me. It got me, I was able to help with developing or expanding a Life After AmeriCorps program, which is really like the post Peace Corps types of programs that I've been working with now for years. But it was, so that was great to incorporate into that, 2 resume reviews, with me, or 2 meetings with me. One would be a resume review for every Corps member, because I did feel it was so important that they start thinking ahead and think about what's next and those kinds of things. So after doing that, I did take a turn into the nonprofit realm and worked with the Hispanic Committee of Virginia, again, using my Spanish. I started in their social services area, but like kind of overseeing a very, very small kind of pilot office. There were 3 of us. And then, lo and behold, as you probably know, with nonprofits, grants get, sometimes, grants don't get renewed, they lose funding, there's crises like, we have now where it might impact those kinds of things. So, so there was somebody else in the other area. And so I became both the training and it was more of the adult and youth education coordinator, and then also still doing that social services realm. So it was 2 jobs, but 1 paycheck and 1 person. So that can be difficult. Absolutely. I think, yeah, so that I loved the organization. They were going through a lot of, difficulties. They're actually no longer around freestanding. They're combined with another organization that's in Northern Virginia. But it was a good experience for me, certainly. And then my dream job really opened up, and I learned about it literally the day before it was due, the applications. And that was in Peace Corps headquarters. It was the, career development specialist job. I think it was career center coordinator at the time. So it was to work in and to basically staff the RPCV Career Center. So working with you in your post-service transition, resumes, cover letters, all of that fun stuff, mock interviews, putting on job conferences, job fairs. Loved it, and that was great. Peace Corps has a term limit, and I actually was very fortunate to be able to expand beyond the typical 5 years. I ended up being there for over 12, which I'm very happy to have had that chance. But you've got to go, and you can't stay forever in Peace Corps. So left that job thinking I would never find another job that would be half as rewarding, and then lo and behold, this opportunity that I'm currently speaking to you from, working with Peace Corps, well, indirectly working with the National Peace Corps Association, right, in their brand new global reentry program, which I'm going to introduce in a moment. That and the services that it provides for volunteers like you. So that came available, and I am thrilled to be here for as long as I may be able to stay in this, and just thrilled to be here with you. So that was a very, very lengthy, much more lengthy than I would usually do in an intro, but just to give you kind of that more idea of, career paths are not just, necessarily, straight line. You may go one way or the other. You try things, you see what works, what doesn't, and if it doesn't, you can always change. So it's never too late to think about changing either. So I just wanted all of you to fully understand that, and then you can certainly ask whatever career questions you have, and we'll go from there. Are there any questions in the queue already that are related to whether it's my career path or anything if so, just let me know, and I'd be happy to. I don't have the chat box up right now, Kyle, just
Yeah,
with
no
everything else.
problem. So I'm not seeing any questions yet, and so I wanted to make a quick plug to everybody that if there are questions, please put them in the chat box. That's one way to get them, to make sure they get to Jodi.
Yep.
I will relay, Jodi, that we do have at least one PCMI on the call.
Oh, great.
Who let us know, and we also have a couple who are currently in Marin County. So
Who are what?
you were in Marin County.
Oh, wonderful.
Looking for some people to be jealous of. And
Oh, yes. Well, I was in Larkspur, so Marin County, right in the heart of Marin County. Absolutely. So wonderful. I'm going to try to get my camera on again just to see if it'll please stick with me. Here it's back. We'll see how long it lasts. This is just a quick graphic that I wanted to put in about, career paths, and there are many, right? And I think too many people, not just RPCVs, but I think people in general get caught into that. What is my career supposed to be? And they think of it as bigger than it needs to be. They think of it as this overarching one career path for their entire life. And I don't know about you, Kate. Actually, I kind of do, right? And Kyle, but I can almost guarantee you that you have not done that one single shot. You've tried different things, right? You've done different things in your life and had more than one, quote, career to date. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, great. And that is I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, and that's more often the case. In fact, the stats that you'll hear, the most recent stat I had heard, it's been a little while, but it was you would have maybe 7 different 7 or more different careers, not jobs, but it might be like careers, altogether different types of work, which seems like a lot, right? But it really isn't when you think about today's day and age. I mean, you do not have the tenure you used to have with most organizations, right? Someone was leaving an organization, they were there for 19 years, and it was this, anomaly, like, wow, 19 years with one organization. Well, in our parents' generation, Kate, myself, and maybe many of you as well, they did have one career, right? And sometimes one job, right? Not even multiple, jobs. They might have been in one job long term. So it's a whole different reality now, which I think takes some of the pressure off. I think it allows you to be able to dabble in and see if you like it. And if you don't, it's okay. You can, backtrack. You can just pivot, not even backtrack, pivot. It's not so much going backwards. It's just pivoting left, right, figure out what's next. So great. All right. And then I will introduce the Global Reentry Program very briefly. Some of you I'm wondering if many of you have been on our one or more of our many webinars we've been doing on a variety of career topics. Do you guys have the ability, Kyle, I think with the participants, to do that, a poll? Let me just see if let me see. Otherwise, either way, I was just going to say with, just if you have been on mine, maybe just drop yes into I'm just trying to get a sense of how many have already heard what I'm going to say right now. Maybe I'll turn
it might be easier to put in it might be easier to do something in the chat box, the polls. We do have the capacity.
No problem. No problem.
A little bit of setup.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, so just wondering in the chat box, if you have participated in any of the events, maybe just put yes in there. I'm just getting a sense of, how many of you have been in those, or if this is a whole new, audience. Let me go ahead though and describe the 4, we think of the Global Reentry Program largely as more of a clearinghouse, if you will, right? Helping to connect RPCVs, evacuees with resources available to help them, whether that's human, resources like mentors, or, job, education, financial assistance, things like that, right? So within that, we have 4 pillars. The career services pillar is the area that I spend the bulk of my time in. So it's the job search and transition assistance. That's the one that I'm really overseeing more and working with. And that's my passion. So it's a really good fit. I do also do some work in the education area, featuring maybe panelists. We recently had a panel from SIT, which is one of Peace Corps' really strong partner organizations for a lot of really great graduate programs. And they talked about unpacking your Peace Corps service. They did a great job on that. In fact, if you didn't participate and you're interested in that, we can get you the link. you can also find it on our website, but I can push you to it at the end when I cover some of the other resources. But that's a really good session just on how do you unpack your service. And we have some other ones, I did, that whole readjusting and, starting a job search in, a time of crisis, those kinds of concepts. So there's lots there that we're in the career. And then the education, really it's that connecting RPCVs to whether it's financial assistance. So a lot of them, have special programs like the Coverdell fellows programs where there's monetary assistance available for RPCVs. So trying to connect them to all of those kinds of things. And then the third pillar is very important, obviously, well-being, sharing tips and resources and connections for, emotional support, right? It's tough. And I'm sure, you'd agree. And I don't understand even completely what you have gone through because I've never gone through that myself. That said, I've worked with a lot of people who have been evacuated for various reasons, ranging from medical to the Ebola crisis, which up until this current one was the largest one that impacted 300 people. So a drop in the bucket compared to now. But so the well-being is very important too, and there are resources for you. We're looking at trying to develop some more peer support networks and get that off the ground as well. And then the fourth pillar and final one is really the continued service or continuation of service. And this is what my colleague Dan, when he explains this one, and he says when he used to be an APDT, he was in the field doing the training and such. And he used to talk at their COS conference, right, which is close of service. He used to say, I want this to be called continuation of service, to get you in the mindset of how you can continue and how you can continue to serve back home and wherever else, whether it's serving back home, serving still your country, even when you're back home, things, ways to continue to serve. And that typically is something that RPCVs do. They continue. I know in my case, and I'm fairly confident in anyone else who's graduated, my Peace Corps service had a huge impact on my life and on my, commitment to continued service. Whether it was in the form of a job or if it was volunteer on the side. I've done a lot of volunteer work and such. So it's been very important for me. I don't know, Kate, if you'd be willing to share a little bit about your own experience with how, how your Peace Corps service has impacted your career.
Sure. I thought I would end up being a psychologist working with children that had been abused, and served in Peace Corps and ended up shifting to wanting to sort of have more of a community impact because I felt like it was more, had a broader reach. Peace Corps was transformative for me, and just viewing the world after growing up in the Midwest and not having had the experience to live outside of that region prior to Peace Corps, and really having my eyes opened. And so it shifted everything. And when I got back to the United States, went to DC because Clinton had just been elected and they were starting AmeriCorps, and I was really passionate about service and wanting to see more people have the opportunity to have service, and ended up working at AmeriCorps during the startup. So Peace Corps, if I hadn't done Peace Corps, I would not be anywhere. Obviously I'm working for Peace Corps now, so I wouldn't probably work for Peace Corps, but I feel like it really changed the path of my career, and I feel like everything I've done since then has felt much more meaningful. Yeah. And I think the skills, and I've talked about this a lot with our volunteers, the soft skills that you get from your Peace Corps service and how you translate that into almost any job and what they're looking for, and being creative about what you went through in Peace Corps and how you turn that into, whether it's they're looking for people who can, build partnerships or have good communication skills, etc. You've learned a language, you've navigated so much through your Peace Corps service, really thinking through how to change what your experience is to the person that's looking to hire. I did notice, Jodi, by the way, you have got some questions, and I'll let Kyle, I don't know at what point you want to get to the question.
And I was just actually, I was just going to say, I looked at a couple of the questions while you were chatting here just to get the panel up here. So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and take some of the questions, and then we have like one more slide and we'll do more questions. That's great. So go ahead, Kyle.
That sounds perfect. And if you've seen the questions, I'll read one of them out.
Yep.
But just, and this is from Elvira, talking about applying for a position with the Small Business Association, or Small Business Administration, I believe. Based on your experience, how long should they wait in terms of when they might expect to hear from them?
I'm laughing because SBA, as in federal government, right? It's a federal agency. And the answer to that, truthfully, is who knows? It could be fairly quickly, especially if it was maybe an NCE vacancy, one of the non-competitive eligibility vacancies, where they put the special, oftentimes they'll announce those on CareerLink, which is one of the resources that I have on the next slide, but it's peacecorps.gov/CareerLink. And they'll put theirs on there and say it's an NCE seeking candidates with non-competitive eligibility. That can be theoretically faster. Now, is it always not? I mean, it's faster than the normal method, but it could still be slow in your mind. By slow, I mean it could. There's so much that goes into it, so it's hard to say without knowing that. But some opportunities, it may be that they are waiting because of COVID-19 now. There's some certain impacts that are, maybe their HR is backlogged in certain other things, or maybe they're rethinking, certain positions. But when you're waiting, like while you wait, I mean, wait for it. If they said in the job posting, don't call us, we'll call you, or don't reach out, we'll reach out to you, I would say respect that and try to just be patient and look at other things, as well, because it could be, it could be a month later, 2 months later, that suddenly you get a call and it's, about this, SBA opportunity. So you're going to definitely want to download that, or just save the job announcement to your, PC or whatever, so that you have it. Because a lot of times, sometimes they don't give that later, or it's no longer posted or no longer, viewable where you first saw it. But by the way, you all have NCE as long as you swore into service. My understanding is NCE has been granted to all volunteers as long as you had been sworn into service and became, that official Peace Corps volunteer before your evacuation date. So that's a really great, if you're thinking about federal government, that's a huge incentive, or a huge assistance for you, right? Because it can help you get seen by more organizations and get hired much quicker without the normal long, process. By the way, I think it's next week. I want to say it's next Tuesday night, 8 o'clock my time. I'm not sure what time that is for you all, but you're all in the States or somewhere else anyway, so it's not quite as bad of the differential. But I'm going to be doing a workshop on writing your federal resume. And I can also steer you, if you have questions, I can steer you to some other resources to hear from USA, Jobs, which is, kind of the central spot for most applications, most job descriptions and all of that hiring and such, and applications go through USA Jobs. So I'm sorry I don't have a more definitive, answer for you, but I know that when you get contacted, you will be very excited and you will be able to go and hopefully do a great job. And let them know that you really want the job, and convince them that you're the right candidate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
The next question is talking about a number of people have written in saying that they've been able to take advantage of the NPCA webinars and talking about how helpful they are. But I think one of them also wants to clarify the best way to get information from the NPCA. If there's it seems like maybe not all messages are getting through to them.
Yeah, I saw that the bottom of that message, the end of that message, where it indicated that you had thought you'd signed up to get the NPCA. You should be getting, if you had signed up yet, the NPCA weekly. It's a newsletter from the Global Reentry Program. If you're not going into that, if you go on to Peace Corps Connect's, the website, right, peacecorpsconnect.org. I believe RPCV.org also works, and it's a lot shorter, so you can try that. But when you get there and you go to the community programs, get to global reentry, or just do a search for global reentry and it'll be there. And there's a way you do need to sign up, like fill out a little questionnaire that just says your country of service, name, email. Like it sounds like you've already done that. What I would say to do first is go in and do that again, just in case maybe the first time it didn't take for whatever reason, but try to go in again and do it. And if you still have trouble, just shoot us an email. You can shoot us the email at careers@peacecorpsconnect.org, and I'll help look into it.
Thanks, Jodi. I'll try to put a couple of those into the chat box as you're showing the next slide.
Yeah, that's great.
And again, please keep the questions coming and into the chat box. So,
great. So absolutely. So what I'm just showing you here, just career. This is just a few of the career transition resources, right, that are out there. But the big ones, the global reentry program that I already reviewed, the 4 kind of pillars. But if you're for the job search and such, you'd probably be focusing largely on the career services part. But we do have the other ones as well that are also important aspects of coming back and reentry. So and I have the link there for you. The mentor program that we have through Global Reentry, if anyone has signed up for a mentor, we were, my colleague Dan is actually coordinating the matching process, and I don't think we really had any idea how popular it would be. We had, and this, I think there's probably over 400 now, but there were 350 people that were requesting, the mentors. Now we had a good number of mentors as well, about 300. So we were about 50 shy. So we're doing a little more recruitment to get additional people to serve, or have people take more than one if they're interested or willing and able to do that. So I think we had our hopes that we would release the mentor program matches much earlier. When we first put it out, yes, we'll have that done. I think we'll be able to do that by next week or in 2 weeks. And it has clearly taken longer than that, because what he's trying to do is, as much as possible, look at kind of your background, and then it's not just this name and your name, trying to kind of get somebody who might be a really good source of information regarding a certain field or their own background. So it takes a lot more than a typical just random match. So so be patient, and we truly do think we're at the end of this. He's looking at finishing it by this weekend, his parts, that we can then reach out to mentors or mentees and in the system and let them know, so that it would be you to be able to get in touch with the mentors at your convenience if you're still wanting that assistance. Okay. And again, outside that, I want to say, yes, that's an official mentor program. For folks of you who live in the DC metro area, there's another one, and it's organized and it's very good and very established through the RPCVW, the RPCVs of Washington network, and you can access them by rpcvw.org. And they just do a really great job on, they have a formalized mentor training that takes place twice a year. And so we're working with them on some of their assistance too, just in kind of expanding that a little larger. And there's also, outside of, Peace Corps Connect, outside of NBCA, outside of the affiliate groups, there are a lot of people in the affiliate groups who are willing and able to informally mentor. So get connected with your local affiliate group. All of that can be helpful. But even outside of the Peace Corps family, there are, you can find people to mentor you, or do even like a career chat initially and meet someone, you start to, chat with them, you realize you have some things in common, and you stay in touch, and, they can be, sometimes informal mentors as well, and very helpful for you as you, are navigating the job search process.
Yeah, one person, Jodi, is asking if there's, is there a way to sign up to be a mentor still? I know you said Dan is working.
Yes, absolutely. If you are interested in being a mentor still, I would send an email, put subject line, willing to be a mentor, or mentor registration. Put that in the subject line, and you can send it to careers@peacecorpsconnect.org. You might want to copy in Dan at peacecorpsconnect.org. He's the one that was really putting that final part together. But yes, we would welcome that. Thank you so much. And I love having people who are, maybe in a place where they can mentor and such, that participate in these calls, in these kinds of events, to share the information with more people. So thank you for being here, whoever that was. I didn't see your name there, but let's see. So through Peace Corps careers, like headquarters, I worked for 12 years in headquarters, as I said, and we had kind of developed, we developed a lot of resources and we had them on the, careers page. So go to peacecorps.gov and then /careers is for that's their general page, and that'll have links to, many different programs within there and job search tips and strategies and employer information. There's lots of good information there still. And then the other career link is the jobs board, which that's a very big, I mean, for Peace Corps, it's an impressive size of jobs board. I know when I first checked it, when I first came back on board and was now in NPCA, I went in and I checked how many jobs there were, and there were almost 1,000 jobs, like literally 990 some. And then of them, like 400 plus 450 were NCE vacancies. So like that's, there were a lot of opportunities. And many of those NCE vacancies, they're actually looking for more than one candidate. So that's more than one job posting, but it's the number of job postings that is counted. So that's some good information. Definitely go there, see what you can find there. And then other external ones, I'm a big fan of the Muse, the Daily Muse. I just like their resources. So anytime I have a career question or I want to get more information on a particular topic, an update and, think about how I want to present it, I'll type in, what it is, where, whatever, behavioral, best behavioral interview questions, whatever the topic is, the Muse. I'll put that at the end and I'll be able to, get what their information. They have great blogs. They have great, they have great articles, just lots of really good resources. And I'm talking about free resources, right? I think they do have like some paid thing you can get in, but they don't annoy you with the whole, like, do you want to do this all the time? Whereas some of the other ones do that a lot more frequently. Work It Daily has some really good information, but they definitely have more of like, they're going to, email you all the time to ask, do you want to get in this program, this paid program, that kind of thing. Balanced Careers is another one. There's some, I wanted to ask you, what are some of your favorite resources? If you can put that into the chat box, your favorite career resources for that you would recommend. Let's see if anything. 7 new messages. Let's see. Several new messages here. I'll come down and see.
While people are typing that into the chat box, someone's written me a question privately that I'll ask, and I'll ask it. And then also for careers at peacecorpsconnect.org and Dan at peacecorpsconnect.org.
Great. Thank you for capturing that.
I got those right.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now.
So the question that I've received is about, I think both Kate, you've talked about your AmeriCorps experience, and Jodi, your AmeriCorps experience, but that possibly transitioning from working, volunteering with AmeriCorps and working for AmeriCorps, and sort of, can you talk a little bit about that as a process or organization? And if I'm not capturing the essence of your question correct, whoever wrote it, please feel free to jump in.
Sure. Well, maybe I can cover the Peace Corps one, and I don't know, Kate, if you'd feel comfortable weighing in about some of the people like Aaron, Dallin, and Kelly, and some others who have kind of gone through and kept in, and moved into the actual employment after serving, if that makes sense. Okay, great. So with Peace Corps, I would say, Peace Corps, a lot of people who work at Peace Corps headquarters are volunteers. That said, it's clearly not everyone, and it's not like 90%, right? It's I don't want to quote a stat because but it's more like, I think it might be more than 50%, but it's definitely, maybe it's not close to 100 even, right? So, but a lot of people do go on to work for Peace Corps, right? They get bitten, by the bug, right? Of service, and they, maybe they really enjoyed their Peace Corps service, and learned a lot from the ups and downs, and they come back and they want to do something like that. It's a natural fit for somebody that has that passion. They're a really great candidate for an employment type of opportunity, right? Because they know the organization, they know how it is, right? Be in the field, if you will, right? So it's a very natural fit. And some of the positions, like recruiter, are almost always RPCVs, right? Because it's very helpful for them to know about how, you know, how is it in the field, so that their applicants can ask them and they can field those questions and they can respond with, you know, appropriate information based on their own experience, right? So I think that's a really big way that people get into Peace Corps. Peace Corps HQ afterwards, right? Not the only way, but that's definitely a big way. But certainly in Peace Corps, the one thing I would say is because they have the 5-year rule technically, there's more opportunities that are opening up all the time. So you always have opportunities that are going to be coming available, meaning you just have a little better, you know, your odds in a sense. Okay, I know there's going to be some positions because people are clearly timing out and going elsewhere at some time. So it is, there's opportunities to get in. Now, some people, you know, you know, most of you at least have NCE, so that helps you. Peace Corps does an actual, they do a posting that's for they call it non-competitive eligibility program, and it's basically one posting for many opportunities in Peace Corps, right? Any of the opportunities where they want to do an NCE hire, they can look at this group of candidates, this pool. Headquarters, you know, whatever department can go to HR and say, we want to talk to people who have XYZ marked on their application, just this pool, like, you know, sub candidates, if you will. So I would absolutely encourage you to apply for that. I'm not sure how they list it usually is. It'll be online, and then it'll have a closing date at some point, but it'll be far in the future. Like maybe it's available, you know, open continuous for like 3 months, you know, until it finally closes or whatever. So the easiest way to look at that would be either go to Career Link first, because it's a lot easier to maneuver through. So just peacecorps.gov/career link, and then do a search for the, you know, NCE only. You can click on the box that says NCE only, show only NCE vacancies, and then do a search and put Peace Corps, Peace Corps non-competitive eligibility program, or see if you can find it through that. It should be there, but it opens up. And if you can't, call HR, you know, get a hold of, you know, HR. They actually, I think, generally do get back to you eventually. You know, sometimes it's a little harder now with the COVID-19, but I think they're able to access, I think email is probably better than phone. So that's what I would say about getting into like Peace Corps, you know, after serving as a Peace Corps volunteer. You know, it gives you such a perspective that it's, yeah, that it's wonderful. I don't know, Kate, if you want to talk just briefly about, you know, also AmeriCorps.
Yeah, so I just posted a link to the Corporation for National and Community Service website to their job page. So AmeriCorps has both centralized and decentralized jobs. So AmeriCorps funding goes to nonprofits throughout the country, allowing them to bring on AmeriCorps members, and they sometimes hire staff associated to that too. So if you're interested in more of a, like, working for an organization that is partnered with AmeriCorps, you can Indeed usually has a lot of listings for jobs associated to AmeriCorps, so that might be one place to look. If you're looking to work in DC at the headquarters for Corporation for National and Community Service, which actually just rebranded as just plain AmeriCorps, which facilitates all the AmeriCorps programs, that link I just put up, which is nationalservice.gov, and then about CNCS careers, but the link is in the chat box. So that would be what I would suggest. There's definitely RPCVs throughout AmeriCorps. So the other thing is to use LinkedIn and find people that are in jobs that you think are jobs that you would like to be doing at AmeriCorps or elsewhere, and then try to find people who served in Peace Corps and reach out and do informational interviews, which is just something else that I think is a really good way to get a foot into an organization and learn more about it.
Thanks, Kate.
Great.
And I was just able to put in the USA Jobs link to the NCE posting.
Oh, great.
That's on
Thank
USA
you.
Jobs, as well as the career link portion of the Peace Corps website. And just as a quick plug for anyone looking to work for Peace Corps, I originally was hired through the NCE program through the NCE posting back in 2012 when I originally got brought on to Peace Corps. So the program
Great.
is successful for those that want to work for Peace Corps.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. And Kate, I'm really excited to hear that CNCS has rebranded, because Corporation for National and Community Service is a mouthful.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Great.
So,
Meanwhile, what other questions do we have coming in about now at this point? Really, whatever questions you have, and I do want to honor your time as well. We're very close to the hour already. I am happy to stay on extra, you know, to answer some additional questions if needed, but completely, you know, understand if people do need to, you know, leave. What I would normally say is any questions that you have, like on the career, you know, job search, things like that. Any of your questions, just throw them in the chat box, and I'd be happy to address them. I do want to also say, be sure before you leave to save the chat box so that you can see, that way you'll have all of these links and such. To do that, simply go to the bottom of the chat box, and where you have the 3 dots inside of square, click on that, and the first option should be download chat. And that way you don't have to worry about.
that's really good advice, saving the chat box. And as I said, we will also, I will be saving this recording and putting it up onto our learning space, and I'll be sharing this with other DPTs around the globe so that they can share it with the RPCV community. And if there, I'm not sure if I'm seeing any other questions.
Sure.
But while people are thinking about it, let me first say, Jodi, this has been incredible, just to hear not only your story, but also what NPCA is doing and the support that's out there for RPCVs. I'll say personally, it's been really inspiring to see the outpouring of support for our evacuated volunteers over the past few months. And so thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Would love if you have any words of wisdom, or any words of wisdom for the volunteers who are on the call right now. You've already shared an incredible amount of wonderful guidance, but any last words of wisdom?
Last words of wisdom. Wow. I would say, I think one of the really important parts is to, while acknowledging the situation has not been ideal, that it's been, you know, difficult and all of that, do whatever you can to maintain as positive of an attitude as you can when you're interfacing with, you know, job, you know, people who are hiring, and, you know, in the interview and all of that, because you definitely want to come across as the kind of person who, you know, is, you know, resilient, who's, you know, positive, not the, yeah, this is what happened, it was awful, whatever, like that. You just, it was awful, and we know that, but try to kind of, you know, keep that positive attitude as much as you can, and realize that each no is one step closer to a yes. You know, when you're going for those jobs, you know, you may not get that first one, you may not get that 10th one, it may take many more, but you're resilient. You're going to put your best foot forward. You're going to learn from each of your, you know, I encourage you to learn from each of your, you know, mistakes, and each of your, you know, your job, you know, applications, and you're going to get better and better and more comfortable at doing the interview. And when the job is right, and when it's right for you and the fit, it's going to connect. Like that, it will come through eventually. It's just that matter of time. So that would be mine, off the cuff.
That's really good advice. And I think kind of touching, kind of blending into that a little bit is a question that's just popped up into the chat box from Candace, who's talking about applying for her jobs on usajobs.gov since being evacuated, have received one message where the resume was passed along to the hiring manager, then the position is later canceled. This is hard to stay motivated, and is this typical in government?
Yep. No, Candace, I feel your pain. That is definitely, it can be frustrating. USA Jobs is a frustrating process. And then having a position that's canceled, I mean, that's a reality of the current, you know, it could be because of, you know, COVID-19, it could be related, you know, the impacts of this are definitely, you know, rolling out and such. But what I would say is, if you have not been getting quote unquote referred, what that means is you have not been found to be among the most qualified pool of candidates, right? And that's the pool of candidates, that's the only group that the actual interview panels are going to see, and the resume panels are going to see. There's that whole multi-stage process in federal interviewing. So what I would say is try to spend more time crafting your application and applying for less jobs. I mean, like the magic number is, you know, you don't want to apply for too little, like, but you want to spend more time on less and really focus on making sure that you're showing them how qualified you are and each of their qualifications are looking for, that you're making it abundantly clear in your bullets and such that you have that skill set, because this is what happens sometimes. People apply, they maybe want 3 years of XYZ experience. Maybe it's project management, whatever it is, right? And so you're like, oh, project management, I've got to get that in. And so you put your Peace Corps service, which was 2 years, and under that you have a great crafted bullet that says what you've done and how you have all that experience, and that's it. What you need to do to meet that qualification, if it's a required qualification of having 3 years of whatever that experience is, if you only show 2, you're not even going to make it to you're going to be DQ'd or disqualified based on, you won't be referred on because they won't see you as meeting the minimum qualifications. So I know it's complicated. There are a lot of webinars out there. On the one that I'm doing on resume writing next Tuesday night, I think it is. Look on the events page, peacecorpsconnect.org/events. I'm focusing on federal resume writing, but I'll be covering some of the federal job search as well. I would encourage you to tune into that if you're interested in learning more about that. But also USA Jobs and OPM, actually, OPM, Office of Personnel Management, they're kind of like the, if you will, HR or whatever of the entire federal government, right? They do some great webinars, they do some webinars that are very informative, that are done like they'll do 3 different topics. They'll do federal resume writing, they'll do navigating the federal job search, and there's one more that I'm blanking on right now, but they do 3 different ones that they will repeat, periodically. You can't find them online, unfortunately, because there's some issue with they can't be recorded. So they've done some things with us in the past for Peace Corps. We brought them in, but we couldn't have it recorded and available later. So, they'll let you know when they're having the next one. So do a little investigating on that, how to, OPM, op trainings, and I'm sure you'll find it. And that might be something worthwhile going through too, because it'll show you a little more about how to write your federal resume. And I actually have changed my take on, I now recommend that people actually use the USA Jobs resume builder, even though I don't like it and I hate how it looks. I feel like it's not really as tailored. I'm not real happy with it. But to make sure that you get everything into a federal resume that needs to go in, there's additional content above and beyond the normal resume. So making sure you get that, and then you might make a nice copy on your own, separate and apart. But HR professionals, they like the USA Jobs because they know exactly where everything's supposed to be and where they'll find it. So, all right. Any input from you two or other questions that came in? And
Kyle put up a link that goes directly to Jodi's webinar, and you can register there. And then I did a link that's the broader calendar of events that are coming up. So those are both in the chat box if anybody needs
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that was the last question that I've seen.
Okay.
And we are a few minutes over the hour, but Jodi, again, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And thank you for this past hour, but also everything you're doing to support our evacuated volunteers and our RPCVs in the past and moving forward through Peace Corps and NPCA. Just really an incredible impact. And we are so honored to have you on this webinar, and thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really my honor to be here, and I'm really enjoying working with the population here, and I look forward to being in touch with many of you, and best wishes on your job search process. You will find that next good fit, and I look forward to hearing from you on where you land as well. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kate, great to see you.
Good to see you, Jodi. Thank you.
All right. Kyle, thank you.
Thank you, Jodi.
Take care. All right.
Oh.